OTB AM with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent modes.
10 minutes past 9. I'm delighted to say Evan Daly is with us in studio this morning. Evan, good morning to you. How are you?
Not a bother now. Thanks very much for having me on. Thank you.
It's very good to see you in the flesh, because normally I'm watching you on my Instagram feeds. You're busy on the gram.
Yeah, it's mad now, to be honest. The last year was mental, so it was like I went from, I'd say this time last year I was 1,000 followers on Instagram, and there's now 150. TikTok's nearly 100,000. It's mental what can happen, and the last year has been a dream nearly, to be honest with you. It's started off, I suppose the whole business was one-to-one. It's all online now.
I saw recently you were selling your gym equipment.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so I started off only this time, probably I'd be a year and a half in business, I suppose now. Not even a year and a half actually, and it was all one-to-one in person, and decided to move it all online from the start of the summer. And it's I've a group coaching service and a one-to-one coaching service in. So yeah, it's going brilliant. Couldn't be happier now, to be honest.
Yeah. What was behind the Instagram explosion? What do you think?
It was, I suppose, to be honest with you, I'm not sure you aware of Sean Casey. Did you ever see him online as well? He does recipes and as well same sort of content as well. But basically I reached out to Sean this time last year because he had exploded himself, and just with the help of his course, which is a social circle it's called, and it's been a game changer, just I suppose knowing what the algorithm wants. But then I think just putting out relatable content, I think, was the biggest thing, and that's kind of the feedback I get from people, that they're can connect with it and can relate to it. And I think that's the difference. The way approach I take with it is just, with all the clients you have, everyone has similar problems, so I'm just like, right, if these have the same problems, there's going to be more people with them, you know what I mean?
That's true.
And try and just make it as engaging as possible, and try and put some sort of humour behind it, if we can at all.
It's a unique style as well. Like the videos, for people who haven't seen them, like, so you're essentially talking to yourself as two different characters, but like it's such in many of the videos, like, but it's so simple because you're not relying on anyone else. You just have to be there yourself. And
yeah, I did one of them before, and I was just literally I was after doing one, and I was like, I just thought, right, this might actually work, even though I felt like a lug there chatting away to myself. You know, the first time it's like I took it. It might look like 30 seconds, it would take nearly 30 minutes. But basically, people I think might have been able to kind of click with that. And when I did it the first day, I was just after making a cup of coffee, I think, for myself after firing it up, and I'd say 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in maybe, it was on 30,000 on TikTok. I was like, lovely, here we go. It's mad, like, it's mad when people connect with the video. Like, it's social media nowadays is like there's no end. Like, you can literally just reach an insane amount of people. Like, you know, like I suppose when I was in America all summer there, and when I went over, I was on 10,000 on Instagram, and I came home and I had reached 150,000, and in one day I'd gone up 50k, like, you know what I mean? And that was just from one video going viral. So I suppose the opportunity is something unbelievable now. Like, you know, it's unbelievable.
The benefit of not doing the stuff in person means that you don't necessarily just have an Irish audience.
That's the thing. And I suppose you're always going to be limited a little bit to the amount of people you can work with and the amount of people you can help, I suppose, when you have just an in-person business. And for me, my idea was I wanted to maybe do a little bit of travelling and stuff as well, do you know what I mean? So I was always a dream of mine, maybe 10 years time, to have an online business, but I just didn't think it was going to happen so soon, you know. And that's just thanks to, I suppose, the opportunity on social media now at the moment. So you're limited with your time and the amount of people you can work with in person, whereas online it's just like you can reach such a massive audience. There's people worldwide, like from Australia, Canada, America. It's mental. Yeah.
So let's get this story to go back to the very start, right? Your first sport. What was your first sport?
First sport was probably hurling, I suppose.
Okay, right.
From Galway, man. So yeah, first sport was hurling. From there, when I was
what was the club?
Clymer Daly is called.
Okay, right.
Clymer Daly, yeah. I haven't won senior since '86, I think it was. So we're a bit behind. But basically, I started off hurling when I was about 8. Started a bit of horse riding and that, and started
horse riding in the family.
Yeah, no, not really. I suppose. Did you ever hear of the horse called Chicago Grey? He won in Cheltenham, going back probably, you're talking maybe 8 years ago or that. But basically, John Earls is a relation of mine, and Michael Earls, you know, Easy Fix.
Yeah.
Basically, they're relations of mine, and they would have been the closest wits in regards to racing. But they're still second cousins, like, so it wasn't actually in the initial, I suppose, the first cousins or close, or real close family, I suppose. So I just happened to just get into horse riding, a bit of hunting, things like that, and it was just like an addiction, I suppose, you know what I mean? It was like an addiction. Then from there, started pony racing.
What age is this? 13, 14?
Yeah, I suppose started off at 8, then I started pony racing when I was about 12. Started going up to Gordon's, Gordon Elliott's there, let's say every Saturday kind of.
How does that happen? Do you just ring him up and say I want to come?
No, actually, I was. Yeah, would you know Tom Howley? He'd be a friend of Gordon's there. Friend of Gordon's, but he would have helped me get into Gordon's, and just happened to get in, and just was riding out on Saturdays, pony racing on Sundays,
right?
And it just started just going up and up and up, I suppose. And then it was like racing's a mad game. Like when you reach the age of 13, 14, like you're having to like think of future straight away, you know what I mean, and take things very serious in regards to weight. You're growing, you're seeing the numbers rise in the scale, and you're like, right, I'm a adult. You have to grow up very fast. That's kind of the way the game is, you know.
So you wanted to be a jockey at that stage?
There was nothing else. Nice. It was all a jockey. That was the only thing that was on the mind, you know. It's
school.
I did my leaving cert, thank God.
Nice.
Did my leaving cert. Got on all right, like, you know, nothing spectacular either, you know. Got on fine. But I was still I was racing in 5th year in school, right? Let's say Dundalk, things like that. I was still racing while I was in school. I was an apprentice for Ger Lines, and learned an awful lot with Ger. Like that was actually a massive grounding. Like even to where I am now, I found like there was some like. With Ger, it was like he's very straight man, you know what I mean. So I actually learned a lot, even not even just racing wise, but I think just even in regards to work ethic, like, you know what I mean. It actually go fair grounding, in fairness. So from there, with Ger for maybe 2 years, had maybe 5 winners in the flat.
So just I'm going to say, for anybody who's kind of unfamiliar, Ger Lines is a flat trainer. At this stage, you want to be a flat jockey. That's what your ambition is.
That's exactly it. So flat jockey, that was it. But I always thought, right, it was realistic. I thought I was going to get a little bit heavy, so I'd always had the idea that I would have to go jumping, because obviously when you're a jump jockey you have to a little bit higher weights. So basically I thought that was going to be the road I was going to have to take, and maybe 2 years in I just said to Ger, right, I am getting a little bit heavy here now, I'm struggling. Had an awful, probably a massive like lack of knowledge in regards to nutrition. I think it's massive with jockeys. It's the lack of knowledge is detrimental, to be honest.
So just sorry to go slowly through this bit. So what weight are you in Ger Lines that is a bit too heavy for flat jockey?
Yeah, so basically I was waking up at the time where I was like, right, I'm a little bit heavy. I was waking up probably maybe 9.2, 9.3, 9.4 even some mornings possibly, and I could do weights of maybe 8.9, 8.8, 8.10. So basically you'd obviously have to sweat off that in your 24 hours or whatever.
6 pounds in 24 hours.
Yeah, that was just constant. So
when you don't really have it to lose.
That's the thing. And I was thinking like, right, this is very early days to have to go to this extreme. And I was like, right, I actually always had the intention of being a jump jockey. So I'm like, right, I can now probably get more opportunities as being a jump jockey because I'm going to be able to ride at the bottom weight. So I'm like, right, this is a no-brainer. Like, so got down, Ger actually rang Joseph for me. So
right.
Yeah, moved down to Joseph O'Brien's from there, because I was like, right, there's just so much more, there'll surely be more opportunities, because as I said, because I could ride at the bottom weight, whereas on the flat I just struggled to not even get close to the bottom weight realistically, you know what I mean.
It was after school, you're about 20, 21.
Yeah, I was only about, actually I'm only 22 now, so this is right. Probably when I just turned 18, maybe barely turned 18, not actually, into 17 actually is when I was, into 2017, I think October time. So moved down and actually loved it. I loved it. Had a few good winners. Had a winner for Mr. McManus, Gigginstown. So yeah, had actually good time, to be honest. An okay time, you know what I mean. I had a few nice winners. Was tipping away, nothing drastic either, but there was more opportunities starting to rise in that, you know. But at the same time, again, I was still struggling a little bit with weight. My weight was constantly creeping up and up and up a little bit. Not a very tall fella, but I was just doing things like completely arseways, genuinely completely backwards. But that was just down to a lack of education, you know. And
you hadn't gone to race or anything like that. You hadn't come through that system.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. I just came straight from school, basically. Right. To be honest, straight from school. I getting help off dietitians and stuff, but it wasn't. I don't think things were really.
It didn't land with you, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think things were explained very well. Like, looking back with the knowledge I have now of it, I'm like, right, I actually possibly think I maybe would have been still in the game if I had maybe a better knowledge of nutrition and that, and wasn't doing things so backwards, you know, because that and injuries were a thing that was probably a massive factor of finishing racing, to be honest. And I'm actually kind of adamant of that, you know. So yeah, that was, so from there, I suppose. Where are we now? Yeah, so I suppose from the 2019 got a fall in Clonmel. did my vertebrae, my back, came back 8-9 weeks later, broke my collarbone, and came back again. I was just like, right, I came to the stage where I was like, right, I'm not even really wanting a ride as such, you know what I mean? I was back down in Joe's, and I was like, I usually before I'd be like constantly refreshing, talking to the agent, and do you know what I mean, really wanting rides. But I got to a point where I wasn't really wanting them. I was like, right, this must be it, even though it was
an issue there.
Yeah, massive issue. So that was a very, very hard decision, like, you know, when you're growing up and everything is racing, you know.
You're very matter of fact, did the vertebrae, like, that means you broke those.
Yeah. So
this is the thing I always find with the jockeys, like, just slow that bit down, because like if everybody has a little bit of a pain in their back, and in the real world they're like, oh, my back, I can't move. Whereas you guys break a vertebrae and it's like, yeah, I was back in 8 weeks. It's mad.
It is mad. It's
when you step outside of the bubble, you're like, it's totally mad.
I'm telling you now, me looking back in, I'm like, them men and women, are like made of iron, like, you know what I mean? They're made of iron, and I obviously probably hadn't that same iron inside me, you know what I mean? Because them falls got to me nearly, like, you know, I was like, right, this is no life. Like, I'm literally hitting the deck here at 40 mile an hour, getting hammered to the ground. When I'm looking back, it's the craziest sport, but like, no one outside that sport realise what them people are made of. Like, they are made of iron. And as I said, it's not even just getting falls, it's constant weight management, constant weight cutting. Like, some of the lads, they're like, some of the flat jockeys, like, they're struggling on a daily basis, like, constantly cutting weight. Like, 6 pounds is a normal weight cut, like, you know.
That's getting in the way of your everyday life as well, and the injuries, you're like, Jesus, this is another 8 weeks, 12 weeks of this.
That's the thing, and that was the biggest thing I found. So when I kind of had the time off, this is another thing actually, like, right, when you're a jump jockey, I'm not sure has it changed now, but I don't think it has. Maybe they might have got an extra week, but like, you actually only have 2 weeks off. 10 days it was when I was racing. I think it was 10 days, 10 days to 2 weeks off, actually, with no racing, like, in an entire year. That's mad stuff, like, you know what I mean? That's mad stuff. And I was just, when I was off racing, I came back home, I was like, Jesus Christ, there isn't much of a life here. Like, I'm missing out on an awful lot of things, not even like social things as such, but just everyday lifestyle decisions you have to make. And I was at a point where my whole outlook on food was very bad. I was doing bad things in regards to my food.
What kind of stuff?
Like, there was probably a little bit of I suppose a little bit of make myself sick the odd time and things like that. You know what I mean? So. And
were you talking to anybody about that, or was
no? And it's only recently I would have said that, I suppose, on a few podcasts now, because now I can look back and like, yeah, I can now say it, like, it's a thing that goes on. You know what I mean? It's a thing that goes on. But like, when I'm looking back, I'm like, right, that wasn't normal. You know?
Was it? It's a thing that goes on. Do you think that other of your peers were doing it too? Was it spoken
100%. About? Not probably out loud, but
yeah,
you'd know it happens. Like, 100%.
That's pretty grim, isn't it?
Yeah, it is grim. Like, I'm not sure how many people are like that, but I'm 100%. Yeah, it definitely it does happen. Like, you know, it's a common thing in everyday life. People aren't aware of actually how common this is. Like, I wasn't completely out of control of it. I'll put it that way to you. Like, I used to just go through phase of like, I'd be just. It was, I suppose, to an extent, binge eating because of severe restriction and then a severe binge, and then obviously you would make yourself sick and you'd feel better and get it up, whatever, you know. It doesn't sound great, like, but it was just the reality of the situation, you know. And again, it was down to the lack of understanding of the whole thing, you know.
It's funny that comes across in your constant videos, is like, don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
Don't binge, because the binge is bad. But then when you do binge, don't worry about it. That's not the end of your life.
Exactly.
You have to forgive yourself for it.
Yeah, that's massive. Like, every day, it's only when you work with more and more people you're seeing the exact same things, right? Nutrition, in my opinion, is probably one of the most overcomplicated things that there is, to be honest. It's the most overcomplicated thing. People think we need to go to drastic things, making extremely overcomplicated meals, making not allowing to have this food, not allowing yourself to have this food, where we need to just kind of strip it back and be like, right, what are the principles of weight loss is the thing that Ireland is really struggling with at the moment. Like, obesity is a massive problem in Ireland at the moment, and it is on the rise. I think it's second in the charts to Malta, which is a fairly it's not a brilliant statistic. You know what I mean? So we're obviously doing something wrong, and I personally think that it's a massive amount of misinformation out there now through different, I suppose, weight loss programs demonising certain food groups instead of looking at the real issue. That is literally overall energy balance is absolute fundamental of your weight loss and of weight gain, and that's a fact of the matter. It's not your one specific food group. but people are trying to think it's bread, trying to think that it's bread, think that it's chocolate, think it's their alcohol. They think it's like one thing, so they take out probably one thing that they completely enjoy, might stick to it for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe lose a bit of weight, they can't last with that, and they end up putting all the weight back on again, like, you know what I mean?
It's pleasure denial, like, and it doesn't work in the long term.
It absolutely doesn't, and it absolutely doesn't, and it's a fact, you know what I mean? Like, whenever you tell yourself, if you tell yourself, right, if I told you don't think of the wall behind you, you're going to start thinking of the wall behind you. It's the same thing as with like food. If you tell yourself you can't have something, you're just going to want it so much more, and people will be just testing the willpower, nearly pulling, the analogy I'd use, like you're restraining yourself constantly till you can't do it anymore, you know what I mean? Whereas people need to question their beliefs around nutrition. And let's say a person who has maybe put on weight over the years and struggling with weight loss over the years, they need to like strip it back and be like, right, question, why have I got from here to here? You know what I mean? Like, nutrition's very simplistic, but at the same time, there's a lot of factors that influence a person to the amount that we eat. Stress, sleep, relationships, work, you know what I mean? Like, stress eating is a massive thing, you know what I mean? And comfort eating is massive, you know? But again, at the same time, it's a lot to do with a person's overall relationship with food, and that's something I try and just drive home to people, try and work on that massively, because it affected me massively as well.
Well, I was going to say, it's like there's a real credibility about your stuff and the videos you make, because you're actually, and you don't talk about the fact that when I was a jockey I did this thing, but it kind of, the architecture on which the videos are built is actually something meaningful and real. Definitely.
It definitely is based on something that I probably struggle with as well. Like, you can't just solely base it on what you struggle with, but at the same time, I noticed there's a lot of people will relate to things an awful lot, because like, I went through phases where I tried shake diets, I tried cutting out carbs, I tried cutting out bread, I tried cutting out everything I tried to cut out, whereas people just forget, right, how can we add things in maybe that we're not absolutely wall falling with the hunger come 8 o'clock at night and we end up going to the biscuit tin and having 25 biscuits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's, people will try and restrict, but then binge and overeat, you know?
So apart from making yourself sick, what other bad habits had you got into when you were trying to make weight, and what was the fundamental issue that you had? Now, if you could tap yourself on the shoulder and go, just fix this, what would you do?
I would, number one, I suppose, I like when you're in that desperate situation to lose weight, I suppose it probably like you try and think of, right, it's more overcomplicated. It's more overcomplicated than just simply calories in versus calories out, but the fundamental, it actually isn't, right? But I wasn't fully aware of that, right? So I always thought it would have to be more complicated, that it had to be one food or whatever. So I would actually strip myself down and be like, right, we need to have more balanced meals throughout the entire day, and not just like picking at small little bits here and there, which in turn over the course of the day I'd probably have more calories than I was if I sat down and had 3 solid satisfying actual meals,
right, a
nice hit of protein, and you know what I mean, actually have balanced meals instead of trying to just pick and end up probably in way more calories in total, you know. So it was actually what I probably would do in very simple terms, actually try and satisfy myself more and just have more quality satisfying meals, as I said, instead of just going for the small little bits. I used to think, this is the mindset I was in, I used to think, right, nearly the bigger the food, I was like, right, this is going to show on the scale, because like, it's a day-to-day scale weight that your jockey kind of has to nearly make to an extent. So I used to think, this is nearly lighter, you know what I mean, this is lighter than this, you know, that sort of way. It was a mad thought process I was in. It's mad, but that was just such confusion and such,
because there's so many messages coming from a million different places.
Yeah, you see, Pete, it's a very, I suppose it's a money making industry, fitness, like, and that's literally, people make money off people's insecurities, and in regards to, people are so disgenuine, like, you know what I mean, like, people will try and say nutrition, it doesn't sound, I suppose, nice to the ear when you're like, right, it is about energy balance, it is about having a bit more protein, a bit more fruit and veg, like, they are actually the things that you need to do, but that doesn't sound nice enough to the person's ear. Surely it's more complicated than that. So people will take advantage of that and try to sell a person this magical supplement, this magical drink, this magical shake, you know what I mean, when they're literally just making millions upon millions off people's lack of knowledge, I suppose, you know, which is very unfair.
There's an obsession with scale as well, like, and the scales, and people looking at the number on that and becoming completely obsessed with it. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
This is massive. This is massive, and do you know what it is, right? It's not actually the actual. This again comes from certain weight loss things. Certain weight loss things where the only metric of success is scale weight, right? And that's not the case, right? There's so many different things that you need to look at, like how you're feeling your clothes, measurements, strength in the gym, performance, etc., right? But people put all their focus into one number in the scale, but you see people are using the scale wrong. People don't understand, right? People will use the scale solely for weight loss, right? And they'll be like, right, if it's up a pound today, I must have gained a pound, and people associate that with fat, and you know what I mean? Whereas we need to understand that your scale weight's going to go up and down every single day by maybe 3-4 pound. You know, like it can fluctuate massively. You might have had extra carbohydrates, mean you're going to retain more water weight, which isn't a bad thing. It sorts itself out. You might have more salt, retain more water weight. You might be more stressed, retain more water weight. You might have ate later the night before, the food's still in your system. So the approach that I take with a lot of people is actually educate them on the scale and actually understand how to use the scale correctly. Actually hopping on the scale more than one day a week, because if you're just hopping the scale one day a week, this is if you're tracking your fat loss progress. If you're only hopping the scale one day a week, it's completely inaccurate. Like, there's 101 different factors. Whereas if we can get a moving average, remove the emotional attachment to that scale, we're in a far, far better position to actually have a better relationship with the scale, have a better understanding with the scale, and actually see what true progress means. Because I notice on a daily basis now, people will freak out. Usually week one, person goes into a deficit, they start dropping body fat, they'll see a massive reduction maybe, right? Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 pound maybe, right? Because they lose a bit of water weight at the start. Then it'll start slowing down maybe week 2, 3, 4. People think they hit a plateau because they maybe might just stood on the scale of a Monday and they might have had maybe a takeaway the weekend, which isn't a bad thing. It just means the scale weight will be up slightly, which cuts a bit of water retention, food volume and stuff, you know. So people think they've lost all their progress, everything's done wrong. They end up giving up, move on to the next diet and try that for another few weeks, you know. And people have unrealistic expectations when it comes to scale weight. They expect to lose 4 or 5 pound every single week, whereas people can't just accept that in order to enjoy your life, have actually a bit of flexibility, pound a week, just slowly going down, and not expect it to actually go down on a weekly basis, because it doesn't. I advocate for actually teaching people how to use a scale correctly, instead of just being like, no, don't worry about the scale, because I don't think that resolves anything deep down. It's about having different metrics, using a combination of metrics, and actually educating the person correctly, in my opinion, you know.
It's a single data point as opposed to the
exactly. Whereas if you remove that attachment, you know, and use different ones, it's far better.
Take us back to the decision to give up being a jockey. Was it at the end, was it obvious to yourself, and how long did it take for the obviousness of the decision to hit? Because you said it was a hard decision, but at the same time, when you're like, don't really want the phone to ring because I'm not really that keen, part of you knows that this is over.
Yeah.
Telling yourself that is obviously difficult.
When I go back and think about it, right, I'd say it was even after, I think just as I came back into my second, just after, when I did my collarbone, I was like, geez, I'm not sure about this, like, you know what I mean? I when I did it and I was a few weeks off again, I was like, this is life, like this is life going forward, you know what I mean?
The next 20 years,
yeah,
if you're successful.
There's a massive, obviously the Injured Jockeys Fund is absolutely brilliant, like, but you have to be making up to a nice amount of money as well to be able to get a nice fund off them for when you're injured. Whereas I was literally making 300 a week. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't doing me any good. It wasn't doing me any good at the time. If a person is like wanting to save for a mortgage down the line, you have to think of them things even when you're younger, and that's a fact. Just you have to. I always say to myself, right, do think long term when you're making a decision in regards to your career. You know what I mean? So I was of the decision. Even when I did my collarbone, throughout that kind of 6 weeks, I was off 6-8 weeks, I was like, kind of question myself, but I was like, I'm not saying it to a sinner, you know what I mean? Because
I was going to ask, are you asking anybody for it?
No, if you say it to a sinner, right, that's the way I looked at it, right? If I was saying it to anyone, but then I changed my mind, I'd always know that one person is thinking I'm doubting things, you know what I mean? And as well, another thing with racing, like, I've no issue saying this, like, because I'm finished now, it makes no odds, but like, if you say you want to finish and you're after maybe breaking a bone, straight away people be like, oh, he lost his bottle, he's a coward or whatever, which maybe a little bit of your bottle does go, like, I don't give a shit, sorry, I don't care saying that now, you know what I mean? But
is it not normal to have, like, jockeys always insist that bottle is either broken and it's always full, or it's empty. There's no in between.
Yeah.
Like, that can't be true. There have to be times when all the greatest jockeys fell over, broke a bad bone, they're lying in the hospital, and their family are going, what the hell are you doing? And they're like, you're right, what the hell am I doing? But 6 weeks later the body starts to feel good again, and they're like, I'm going to give it one more go, and then they make a comeback. I believe in the human spirit, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like, I kind of agree with you to some extent, but at the same time they are a different mentality, you know what I mean? And I obviously didn't have that massive I didn't, at the end of the day I probably didn't have that absolutely diehard mentality of being a jockey, you know. And I wouldn't say that it was just because my bottle went by any means at all. There was a lot of multiple factors, and to be honest, I've only saying that now because just things even come to my head. But like, the main reason for it was the lack of opportunities, the lack of I suppose the unknown, I suppose is the way I'll put it to you. The lack of a life. That's the way I'd say it, you know. But again, some people love it, you know, and live for it, and that's completely fine, like, you know.
See, you'd built a bit of a name as well. Like, you're right in saying that you're the first jockey born in the 21st century to ride a winner on an Irish racecourse.
Saw that actually, yeah.
That's going to put your name out there. People can be like, oh, that's a fairly interesting point as well, which is going to make people follow your career, I guess, a bit more.
Yeah, like maybe it was. To be honest, it's not one thing that I actually thought of massively. To be honest, like it's not one thing. I think probably one of the biggest things I made a name for myself was, I'm not sure, do you ever see, but
do we have the video? I think we've got the video. Roll it there, Roshi.
That was you ever on standby?
There you go. So where are you here? That's you on the that's you in the beanie hat.
Oh, that was the worst day of my life. The worst day of my life. My God, it was absolutely brutal.
What happened?
I was actually riding a horse called Gold Seal. I won the RT hurdle on him. It was a 50 grand handicap down Listow, and that was my biggest winner. And this was the time. Oh no, this was the first time I actually rode him, so I actually got the ride back on him again the next time and I actually won the RT. But this is in Navan, and I had a couple of pounds to lose for it. I had maybe like 4, 5, 6 pounds, not sure what I had to lose, but I had another like maybe pound to take off that day. So I threw on the sweat gear, arrived the race course in the middle of the race. I think that was a grade 2 race actually. Arrived the race course in the middle of the race, and the weight room was really quiet, and usually there'd be good old atmosphere. So I obviously dehydrated at the bone. I came into the place and didn't really think much. I was like, for some reason, I think at the time, it's like the race and obviously didn't start, even though I wasn't even right till maybe like the 5th, 6th race. So obviously the race didn't start. I knew that, like, but I obviously had a blank moment, and I went out to put on my earphones, throw on a hat, listen, and I remember the song and everything. George Ezra, Hold My Girl.
Jesus, yeah.
But I went out, and for some reason, thank God, I wouldn't be here today. But if you actually see it, right, I was just on the way back in after going wide around the hurdle. So I was just on the way back in here, right? Whereas usually what I do is I go under the railing. So it makes no sense that I actually went wide that day. Whereas usually I go to the left and I'd be killed in because I would have been there. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. It was a blessing.
And you wouldn't have been hit by one of them. It would have been multiple horses.
It would have been multiple of them. I would have got killed 100%, like stone dead, I'd say. But like I remember I was thinking, right, where am I? I'm in Navan. There's a side camera, and I was looking. I was like, right, I'm at the side camera. If I'm at the side, I'm sound. If I'm at the front, and I looked up, and there it was, just facing me in the eye. I was like, oh no. Came by, took off my hat, going by the stand, because obviously it was a luminous hat, like going by the stand, and all the boys, obviously whoever they were, obviously drunk up in the stand, they're on. So no, it was brutal. It was.
Did you get in trouble for it?
The stewards were waiting for me, right? They were waiting for me, but they were. I just basically said, "Look, lads, I can't. I don't know what happened. Like, it was a blank moment. Whatever punishment there is. But it was like, I think it was Ruby, Davy Russell, Robbie Power, Jack Indy, Mark Walsh, and they were. Ruby was just filling his glass of his jug of water. I remember at the canteen, like I was just like, sorry, but then he was like, what the hell happened? But they're all A1 about it, like, you know, they were doing some laughing. But yeah, it was.
Did
lucky.
Anybody in the weigh room counsel you to come back, that actually, you know, this is just a little bad period, everybody has these injuries earlier in their career, stay with it?
No, not really, because I think when you make a decision like that, right, that big, people don't just think that it was a once-off decision. Some lads, right, would have been like, would you not stay going, would you not stay going, give another go? But as I said, right, I think in that game, it's a game that's it's a very like isolated game, right? It's a little bit of an isolated life to an extent. Like, your friends and everyone are all racing, and I think time can pass very fast in it. And my thought process at the time, I was like, right, do I want to spend another
10 years being a journeyman?
Yeah. And I'm like, right, I'm now 19. I still have I go back to college. I actually went back to college, went doing engineering, but I only did a year there. I hated it. That's when I opened up the gym. So I was just kind of like, no, I made the decision, that's just it, because I just didn't want just to waste my whole 20s, you know. So no, it was the best decision I ever made, to be honest, but don't regret a thing.
It's wise, you know, to be able to spot that and to know that you don't have the love for this thing that you did love and you wanted. And it's good to see as well that, like, because a lot of people, you know, get very bitter about life when they don't make it in the thing that they've dedicated everything to, but you don't have that.
Yeah, no, not now. Like, at the time, right, you'd be very lost now, right, at the time, because, like, as I said, I know this might sound mad, but, like, once you are 8 years of age, like, you're a jockey, that's, as in, like, that's all that's in your mind, you know. School is school, but, like, that's a good period of time to be like, this is my only thing future wise, and then for that to go, you're like, oh Lord, what's going on here now, like, you know. So I was very, very lost there for a period of time, and I was just thinking, right, I thought I wanted like just a stable 9-to-5 job is kind of what I wanted, with not much stress or whatever. I'm not sure, is that a thing, like, but with not much stress. So I just was in a factory for a while because I was too late for the CEO after doing my personal training course, and I was like, after a few months, I was like, right, I don't want this. I wanted my job that I could actually kind of somewhat like get a satisfaction out of my job, you know what I mean? And straight away I just reverted back. I was like, right, I'm actually not even caring about money at the moment. So I'm like, right, what is it I want to do? So I tried to strip it back, because I reached a fucking low enough point, like, you know. So I wanted to strip it back, and I was like, right, what do I enjoy? I did my personal training course. I said, right, I'm going to open up my own studio. So pumped a bit of money into PT studio, and that took off, filled up, and I decided then, right, I actually passed first year engineering, so I did, but I decided I didn't go back. I wasn't going back in September, because I opened up, I'm going to give this a go, and then I started pushing social media from the December just gone by. Yeah, it's going well, touch wood, please God it stays going, you know. Yeah,
well listen, we wish you the very best of luck with it. You're very good to come in today. Enjoy the Christmas shopping, and if anybody hasn't already, follow you on your multiple platforms. Where's the best ones?
Evan Daly _Daily Fitness, TikTok and Instagram, and then the Daily Fitness podcast in as well. Thanks a million.
Yeah, brilliant. Good stuff. Thanks, Evan, that was brilliant. Thanks a million. Stay there for a second. OTB AM brought to you with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. Tomorrow, Jamie Heaslip will preview this weekend's game with Australia. Sue Ronan is the latest on our You Had to Be There, and much more as well. Here's some Philippe Auclair talking with Joe.